I thought it could be neat to answer real mom questions today. So today's Q&A, these are real questions from real local parents. Um, I think that you're just like the natural person to ask these questions to, obviously, as the expert that can answer them. This video is in part of our annual partnership with NEDC. We're so grateful to have their expertise. So here's the first question, David. The question is, I'm considering a major home remodel in the next year or so. What is the first thing I have to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, do your due diligence,
Mhm.
I feel like the industry can be quite confusing.
Yeah.
Um, Starting off with large scale, I think that can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
When you're ripping out your kitchen and doing like that is large scale to you. Uh, Also large scale could be like remodeling the whole house.
Right.
But I think the main thing to look at is just the factors that go into a successful project. There is a planning period, and that is
Mhm.
really crucial. And then there's the execution. And I think the advices that are out there is like how to hire a contractor
Mm.
or how to hire an architect or how to, they kind of miss the aspect of the thing that can be the biggest downfall or issue, which is the having those two professionals separated.
Mhm.
And if you're talking about large, a lot of times there's a separate architect, a separate interior designer, and there's a separate contractor or builder. And so, just understanding that if you can have a successful project and hire those all separately, but the responsibilities are dispersed.
Mhm.
And so all those functions still need to be done in terms of like, the planning needs to be done. But then like, how is that actually going to go down? I think, a thing that I really like about our process is the simplicity of, a single source of accountability.
Mhm.
And all those things need to be done at a high level, the architecture, the interior design, and the building. But um, having one entity that can, you know, do all those at a high level, I think does really simplify things. And if you're not going to go that route, that's cool. You just need to understand, like, if you hire the contractor's not going to design. He's not necessarily thinking he's responsible for the design, and
Mhm.
so there can be these things that fall down to you as a client if you have a
Mhm.
naivety about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's, I guess, a room for error too when you're having multiple different professionals who aren't under the same umbrella. Like, one person
Mhm.
could tell you something that is not actually able to be executed. That does, yeah, that leads us to our next question, actually. But I guess you're saying the first thing you need to do is just some general fact finding. And do you think, in your professional opinion, is it important to talk to many different firms, or like what is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. When you're
Okay.
starting out, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like you want to utilize your time well. So
Yeah.
a lot of folks just hop on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a time saver more than anything. It's just
Yeah.
like to, look at your project type, look at firms that seem to execute those well, that have a track record,
Mhm.
portfolio, solid reviews. That's where I would start.
Yeah.
And then, going out and contacting those. And we try to be really transparent and helpful in that process because we understand that there's not a ton of information out there on it. And so we really try to give folks feedback. Like, it's not like buying a car where you can just look online and be like,
Yeah. What's the
okay,
blue book value, right?
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's definitely, there's more to it. So we really try to, fill the void of
Yeah.
information that there is, because I feel like a little bit of the industry is like benefiting from that lack of information.
Oh,
Like
that's
that
definitely
you're
yeah.
getting far enough down the line where
Yep.
it's like you're trapped. It's too late. Like
Yeah.
now you're really gonna get what the deal is.
Yeah.
So we try to just make it, just provide information easily, simply, freely, and be honest with like what we project for cost,
Yeah.
for timing, and what's possible for a scope. And I think that is something I'm really proud of being able to do.
Mhm.
I have a skill set where I can do that pretty well and
Yeah.
have kind of formulate curate an outline of a project in those main components that are like completely unknown to people and are the main variables, and provide enough confidence to start moving down that track with, but already having those parameters set.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to that. So I don't know if you know this, David, but we did get other bids. So I was like, I have to, in my heart of hearts, I was like, who am I going to trust coming into my home all the time? We check the
Yeah,
box, NEDC, but then you have to make sure, like, is what we're going to spend going to be
totally, totally.
equitable
Yeah, it's a lot of
and
money.
yeah, and worth it because it is. It's a major, it's a major. We're taking on something major so that we can continue to live in our home, hopefully for forever. And I thought it was so interesting. I've never shared this with you, but the other bids that we got were right in the same space as the NEDC bid was,
Okay.
but with so much less offered.
Mm.
So, like the security of having the design build firm, the security of knowing that when you're costing this out, you are actually thinking about what it costs your company to run these things and all the people underneath, and knowing the subcontractors that are coming in and all this kind of stuff. So I thought that was very interesting and really did provide us a significant amount of peace of mind. I do want to also, like, this is like, again, off script, but you do have a warranty too that not every business offers. So peace of mind is there too.
We do,
So
we do. Yeah.
yeah, do you want to speak to that?
We have a 5-year warranty.
Yeah.
Massachusetts requires a 1-year warranty.
Yep.
Some firms have more, but we've increased ours to 5, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's awesome for us to have that connectivity and learn,
Yeah.
when there are issues, and we love being, you know, not going away.
Yeah, and I actually I have heard stories of people actually needing to use it with NEDC or wanting or like whatever, using it even in like the most, I don't know, like super super small variable, and it's there. So I think
Yeah.
that's pretty great.
No, it's some assurity, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, you should do your due diligence,
Mhm.
and I would do the same. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
I think that's great. There is a fair amount of information that NEDC provides that even maybe before you're reaching out about your project, they do have a cost guide. The 2024 cost guide is up. We will include the link here. We promote this every year because I think it's so great. It's very transparent. It is based on real Boston area projects, to kind of give you an idea of, like, it's an example scope, but it can give you an idea of what things would cost. So I think that's really helpful too.
thank you.
Um,
Yeah, there's not a lot of those resources, so
no, yeah, because you're right. When you're not, I like to think that people aren't doing things like nefariously, but like when you're not giving information and you have the client sign on the dotted line, this random company or whatever, it can be a little easier to get the client to have to pay more and more and more as and
yeah,
snowball it.
no, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. You
yeah.
know, yeah, there's a lot of pitfalls to that, and you don't, that you don't want change in construction. Like, it adds time, it adds cost, and so the
Mhm.
name of the game for us is really, I tell folks we have our change orders in the design process when you have control,
Yeah.
and you can like look at things analytically and make decisions that are right for you.
Yeah. I think it's so powerful. We've spoken, my question number 2 was a question just about design build in general, but I think
Yeah.
we've covered it.
Well,
Um,
I know the question because you told me ahead of time, but I do think you can hire a separate interior designer, architect, and be successful. Like,
yeah.
it's not like, hey, because there could be unethical design builders,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
And
true.
they're going
Yeah.
to screw you.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
not like the one all savior. Like, just hire a design build firm.
Yeah.
There's separate architects and builders that work together on a lot of projects.
Yep.
That it's almost like a design build setup,
Yeah.
because they're kind of overstepping those typical roles and looking out for and
Yeah,
making sure like
the
the
checks and
client's covered.
balances. Yeah.
Yeah, they're making sure the client's covered. It's not even so much the checks and balances. Like,
Mm,
I think that it's really like them like understanding, hey, we're going to create a win for the client. We're together.
mhm,
It's that mentality more so than
mhm,
than anything else. But yeah, so I do think it could be, you
mhm,
know, the alternative. I think it's simpler having one entity regardless.
mhm.
So that's kind of
I
my
like
point.
the one Gantt chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can just see your project all the way through. Yeah, one Gantt
yeah.
chart. But you're right. And that's all part of fact finding too, whether you're going to work with a design build firm or with separate, an architect, a builder, and a designer, making sure you have as much information as possible. And I think, and something that I even learned in my own process is asking questions. What happens if something goes wrong? Like what happens? Like, what are
Mhm.
we going to do if in this, whatever, in this
Yeah.
part of the project, something comes up? Because you want to know that there's a plan in place.
Yep.
Okay. If somebody is interested in working with NEDC in 2025, so it's only May of 2024.
Yeah.
However, I assume you're booking out a bit because the
Yeah.
process does take a while. So
It does.
if
It does.
if
Yeah. Most of
if
our
somebody,
projects,
yeah,
the design process is like in the 6 months
yeah,
range,
yep,
including permitting. It could be less, it could be
yeah,
more depending on the size. And design clients have an impact on the design schedule. They
yeah,
should not have any impact on the construction schedule, but they
yeah,
are a main participant in the design process. So their availability, decision making, what have you, does
mhm,
impact that. But we do, get it in a Gantt chart. We know what meetings we're going to need to have, so it does gives predictability
mhm,
on a construction start date. But yeah, folks, if they're looking to renovate in 25, should really be like underway
yeah.
on this due diligence process.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy that you spoke to that because I think that's a misconception, of like, okay, I know I want to do this project next year. Well, like you have to kind of start that now because it's finding the people who are going to run the project. It's figuring out your financing. It's all of these other things. All
Yeah,
it takes
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So yeah,
One thing we
now,
look at very early too is the permitting. Like, what's the permitting process going to be? It
yeah,
could be, typically it's a month or less, but
yep,
it could be something that's like crucial for your project that's going
yeah,
to, require an alternative approval process and extend it
mhm,
out. And so, the sooner, the better to start like looking at this. And we look at it. I look at it even, in the design consultation because
yeah.
I want to have that predictability myself.
Yeah, so when you mentioned that some things take a little bit longer, that's like if you're having to build closer to the property line, like things like that you
It
have to
could
go
be
to like the
various things
town
like this, historical,
historical, yep,
conservation, zoning is a big one. That's like
yep,
property lines, and
yeah,
there's other regulations regarding volume.
yeah.
So yeah, so
As much time as you can give yourself, is probably wise, but definitely if you're thinking about something for next year, now is the time to think critically about it.
yeah,
Our final question that I think is we're right at the 15-minute mark, but I feel like people are gonna
do it,
continue to watch this.
do
So,
it.
this is one that I actually said to David when we started this video, I think we could do a whole Q&A on it. So maybe we will someday, but this question says, I'm considering remodeling a very old home. Is this something that NEDC specializes in?
Yeah, yeah, we do. We love older homes. You have an older home,
I
so
do.
1925
Mhm,
Dutch colonial. I really have. That's something, I went to school for architecture. But I have a much heightened appreciation for our housing stock. It's really
mhm.
like the oldest in the country,
Yeah.
and it is beautiful. And I have such an appreciation for the different styles, and what they kind of utilize to construct them, and have an understanding for that is really important
Mhm,
for every project. So yeah, so that's something that we really pride ourselves on, having an expertise on,
mhm,
and understanding the factors. And our first phase of design we call pre-design. It is
mhm,
primarily fact finding. So separate from the historical aspect of homes, there's like variables that, never mind, we don't want to come up in construction, but we actually do a bunch of research in the first phase of design to try to uncover, like, we're going to know exactly how that home was constructed, where all the utilities are,
mhm.
those HGTV, like, oh, we didn't know that this was here. Those really should not happen. It's like, if you do the due diligence in the design process, they're all uncoverable. The
Mhm.
great majority of them are. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's pretty neat. Yeah, when the team was here doing ours, they're like measuring the door frames, and because our door frames were actually, I think, smaller than like is standard now, like the actual like openings for our
yeah,
doors, little things
yeah,
like that. That I was like,
yeah,
why? As like a person who doesn't do this as for a living, I was like, why would that matter? But it matters.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I
it is
think this is
interesting.
so great. I love being on this side of things. Like I said in the beginning of this video, like I've always felt like I could speak to why I would urge, families in Greater Boston to reach out to NEDC, but now being one and a real client. And on the other side of construction, construction is an adventure no matter who does it with you.
Yes, yes,
But we're so,
inconvenient.
yeah, we're so happy with our space. So I'm super thankful. And if you are interested in working with David and his team at NEDC, we'll include all of the links here for you to be able to follow up with them. If you're thinking about a 2025 project, we would highly encourage you to start doing that fact finding now. And potentially, if you're thinking about a remodel, looking at the cost guide too to get an idea of ballpark costs based on real Boston area projects. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with today, David?
No, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Megan. Really, really
Yeah.
appreciate and Boston moms in general. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So looking forward to the rest of the year as partners. We have lots of good stuff to offer our moms. Thanks all.